Shalom, shalom. Welcome back to Jerusalem. Welcome back to Zion. Good to be learning with you again. We're learning the Torah portion, and we are beginning this week the book of Exodus, the book of Shemot, the second book of the 5 books of Moses, and I'm excited to be with you again. It's interesting, every opportunity that I've had to join an organization, to join the leadership team in an organization, to manage teams, it's interesting, it's fascinating to me to get to know new people, to get to know new systems, to learn, to explore, and to map out what is going in the new place of employment that I find myself. And sometimes they ask, what will you do in the first 4 to 6 weeks? And very often my answer is, intentionally, very little. I want to learn. I want to listen. I want to get to know the very good people who are there. Learn the mission. What makes these people tick? What are they about? Where do they come from? And what have they been doing? And that's what I enjoy. And that's how I tackle a new entry to an organization or into a company. And I think it's good advice that I received from my mentors in that respect. So then we see something very interesting in this week's Torah portion. If you open there to the book of Exodus, chapter 1, at verse 8, we see a change. We ended the book of Genesis with Yaakov, Jacob's family down in Egypt. Joseph had been for quite some time the second in charge of Egypt, and all was good. But then it says at verse 8, a new king arose over Egypt, Asher lo yada et Yosef, a new king who did not know Joseph. Some say it was a new king who didn't know about all that Joseph had contributed to Egypt and how he had saved them, and others say, well, in fact, it was just convenient for that king, for that Pharaoh, to forget Joseph. And from there, some accusations that we've heard throughout history toward the Jewish people, and in fact toward other peoples that we do not know and do not remember, about them being too large, too numerous, that they may turn on us in war, or that they may leave us. And all those accusations we see in verses 8 to 10 in this week's Torah portion. If we do a comparison here, if we go back a few Torah portions to the Torah portion of Miketz, and we open there in the book of Genesis at chapter 41, verse 46, we see that Joseph, when he was given very, very significant control over Egypt, he took a whole different approach to getting to know the people. What did he do? If you see there at line 46, it says, ויצא יוסף מלפני פרעה, ויעבור בכל ארץ מצרים. He left from being with Pharaoh, with the king in Egypt, and he went out and passed through the entire land of Egypt. He got to know the people. We've discussed this. He was newly appointed to a very significant senior position in a major empire that it was at that stage, Egypt. He went out and he explored and he got to know the people. He talked to the people around him, these new people over which he would now have control. Compared to Moses who grew up as a prince of Egypt, who had been rescued from the river and grown up in Pharaoh's house. But what did he do when he grew up? If we look in the book of Exodus, chapter 2, at line 11 and verse 11, it says, V'yigdal Moshe, he grew up, V'yetzeh, that same word, V'yetzeh, he went out, Elechav, he went out to his brothers, and he saw there an Egyptian man striking a Hebrew man, and he stood by his brothers, and he struck down that Egyptian man and killed him. He did not forget where he comes from. He did not forget his roots. He wanted, though he grew up in a palace, though he grew up in a privileged lifestyle, he wanted to go out and see the people. Not that this was accepted by everyone, and we see in verse 13, again, chapter 2 of Exodus, we see straight away that when he tries to break up a fight between two Hebrews the response is not great. Who are you? Who are you to lead over us? Who are you to decide over us and judge us? Will you murder us like you murdered that Egyptian? And then he flees. But it's interesting. We learn very quickly that the approach of Moses to go out and try to help the people was the right one. And we know that going out and getting to know the people as a leader, as a boss, as a manager, is always the right way to engage the people around you. And very soon, as we'll see in the coming weeks of Torah, Moses is asked by God to return, yes, to return to Egypt from where he grew up and become the savior, the leader, and the redeemer. So when we make that effort to get to know the people, we are making a critical leadership decision. You cannot lead a people alone. You cannot lead a people without knowing the people and going out to meet the people. And even though there will always be those who say, why you? Where do you come from anyway? Where have you been? You're new here. Do not be taken from the path. Stay on the path. Moses' path was the correct path. And God shows us that in the coming weeks. Let's stay on that path. Let us all be leaders. Let us get to know the people around us in our communities. Take time to get to know our families better. And as leaders of organizations and companies and of countries, let us invest time to look in the eyes of the people that we hope to lead and to learn from and to grow with. I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom, a good Sabbath. And we'll speak again and learn again from Jerusalem. Shabbat Shalom.